Former Vogue editor says she stormed out of first class plane seat after discovering fellow passengers were all, quote, white middle-aged men. The horror! One final story we got to touch on today. Up next, this journalist is actually beyond parody. Like, the world of media is full of so many delusional and entitled people, but this woman might have just taken the cake. And that might be interpreted as a fat shaming comment. I don't know, because she seems to be very bent out of shape by any microaggressions. And like this story, how much significance does it have? I don't really know, but I was doing my prep for the show and browsing the different websites that I look at for story ideas, and Mediaite is one of them. It's like a media website that covers like media drama and trending topics. And I saw this story, and it's so insane that I just had to share it with you guys because I cannot believe people like this exist. Anyway, here's the headline. Former Vogue editor says she stormed out of first class plane seat after discovering fellow passengers were all, quote, white middle-aged men. The horror! Like, it's the Kim meme, right? The Kim Kardashian, like, Kim, people are dying. People are struggling to like afford to eat in the country, and you are complaining that you had to leave your first class seat. And she, by the way, when you'll see when we get into the details of the story, she wasn't scooting back to coach. She was going back to business. So I think this was an international flight. So she's still laying flat. Okay. And having traveled international business class, I can tell you that is the most comfortable and luxurious like flight experience imaginable. And yet she had to sacrifice, guys. She had to downgrade in solidarity because there were too many microaggressions around all the way. How are these people real? Like, crazy. Anyway, here's the story. Former Vogue editor Gabriella Carifa Johnson revealed this week that she stormed out of an expensive plane seat after discovering all of her fellow first-class passengers were old white men. Quote unquote, I just downgraded myself from first class to business class on my flight to Milan, Carifa Johnson announced in a social media post on Tuesday. I have the full post, and we're going to read it because it's a work of art. It belongs in the Louvre, right? And anyway, though, just this, like, imagine sitting there typing this out, being like, you know what the world is really going to want to know about? How I just had to downgrade myself from my first class to my business seat. People are going to love this. I'm going to get so much sympathy. Girl, this did not go the way she hoped. It did not go the way that she hoped. I'm sorry. I'm just in yapathon mode today, so bear with me, all. But I was somewhere and I was like, somebody said, describe to me your prototypical viewer. Like, what's your demographic? And I'm like, middle-aged white Republican women with a gay son. And I love y'all. Don't get me wrong. That is, none of that is shade. That is, but like, and obviously I have a varied audience, lots of different people. But I was like, that's kind of actually like a moderate Republican woman with a gay son. That's my prime demo. Y'all are the real MVP. Y'all pay my bills. And I love y'all for that. Anyway, back to Gabriella here. The talent that got away from Vogue. Somehow they lost out on this extraordinary mind of our time. Gabriella wrote on this post on Instagram Threads. That's how you know it's going to be good, when it's on Threads. I just downgraded myself from first class to business class on my flight to Milan. Oh my God, the number of first world problems in this post. In a cabin of 6, 5 of the passengers were white, middle-aged men. Then there was me, a 30-something black woman who travels in that cabin often, and a male flight attendant who thought I'd be okay with substandard service and persistent microaggression from the moment I sat down. My God. Persistent microaggression. Like when he forgot to offer me peanuts. That was clearly because I'm a black woman. Also, like, the people who are really familiar with air travel are going to have to help me fact check this, but like, that sounds weird that there would only be 6 seats in the first class cabin for an international flight. Anyway, oh my God, this is the microaggressions. It's like, how do people still think that's a thing? A microaggression is not a real concept. That's just called a mild inconvenience or a verbal tick. And if it really meaningfully impacts you in any way, like that's a you problem. You're going to have to build a bridge and get over it, develop thicker skin. And I'm sorry, but it's like, it's not shocking that 5 out of 6 people in first class would be white men. Okay, because it's mostly rich people, and like it's going to be old white men who are traveling for business. That probably like a lot of the time. And how does that hurt you? Just she's literally just framing being around white people as some form of like attack on her. Imagine if I tweeted like, I just had to upgrade my seat from coach because I sat down in a section and in all 3 rows near me was just black women. And there was too many microaggressions. Like, what? People would be like, you're insane. Why do you look at the world that way? But some people still are trapped in this freaking time capsule to 2018. Anyway, the final post of this, he was wrong. I don't suffer fools, and I would sacrifice physical comfort to protect my emotional and mental well-being any day. I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna snap. This might be the end for me. I will sacrifice my physical comfort. You mean going to the lie flat seats in business class? That's the sacrifice of your physical comfort to protect my emotional and mental well-being. Babe, if your mental and emotional well-being is threatened by simply being in the same place as white men, or by microaggressions that you notably did not list or explain and are probably 1000% in your head, then you belong in a padded room, not an airplane of any kind, not coach, not business, not first class. But one of the worst things about social media and the echo chamber that it is that you can say the most delusional and people will gas you up in the comments if you're in a big enough echo chamber. Anyway, here are some of the replies to her post. I'm sorry you had to do that. You deserve to be anywhere and everywhere. They belong in economy. Oh my gosh, she replied, the author replied to this. Hard agree. It's just such a bummer that humiliation is part of the gratification for racists. Protecting my peace felt like letting him win, and I hate that. To which another person replied, I really do think that for a certain kind of person, it's not as fun to have luxuries if they don't see other people being excluded. I mean, like, so we're just assuming that something was actually done to her and that she's not the most privileged and out of touch human being on planet Earth. So, like, I promise you, by the way, I guess I can't see the profile. I would bet there was just this dude who bet a bunch of money on, I think Kalshi against Doge, and he won a bunch of money. He bet his whole life savings that Doge would not successfully cut government spending, and he was right, unfortunately. So he made a ton of money. I would bet my whole life's, probably not my whole, but I would bet like a lot of money that the people behind these replies gassing her up are woke white women. They're a scourge. They will enable the most delusional people and gas them up. And then we end up with these people posting about how they had to sacrifice to go to business class because of too many white men. Y'all have created villains, and now we have to enjoy them. I will say, this is like, this is an example where they're so crazy, it's almost iconic. Anyway, someone else wrote, girl, you should absolutely complain to the airline. My husband is a captain for a major airline. He would absolutely tell you to contact the airline. He works really hard to treat the cabin crew with respect and dignity because they deserve it, and so does every single human aboard that aircraft. I don't care if that individual is having a bad day. Everyone deserves to be treated with a high standard of care. In fact, on my worst days, I try really hard to give the people the care I desire. Okay, so you haven't really said anything in most of this that's that bad, but it's like, again, you're just assuming something was done to her when she didn't complain about anything valid. And what's she going to tell the airline? I had microaggressions done to me. They're going to be like what? And she's going to have to list them out, I guess. There were too many white men sitting next to me. Oh my gosh. Somebody else commented, the way people refuse to grow the F up is scary. Microaggressions in 2026 have no valid excuses. Oh my God. I need to get a doll. Like a literal doll, and so that I can hold it up, and whenever the word microaggression is mentioned, and I could say, can you show me on the doll where the microaggression touched you? Because it's like, this is not a real thing, but millions of people actually believe this is a real thing. Like, entire corporate American business giants did trainings to thousands of employees teaching them about microaggressions. Practically every freaking college in the country has like training seminars and stuff about this kind of. How did we ever let such a nonsensical fake concept? How did we ever let ourselves be bullied into pretending that it was real just because we were afraid somebody would call us racist or something? Absolutely one of the great mysteries of our time. But what I find so amazing about this person, I'm very curious. How is Karifa Johnson, this journalist, constantly flying first class? Because she rage quit her job at Vogue after October 7th in protest of Israel. Let's just read this final part from Mediaite. Karifa Johnson resigned from her position as editor-at-large of Vogue in October 2023 in protest over Israel's invasion of Gaza. Oh my God, I can't read this with a straight face. Sorry, guys. I resigned, this is a quote, I resigned as kind of a material action of solidarity, and because it was just time for me to move on, she said at the time. There's so many things that these institutions represent that I'm not. So what you have here is a woman who had like a cushy elite media job that probably required very little of her, and she quit it to protest Israel. Because like Netanyahu, whatever you think of that issue, set that aside. Netanyahu's in bed at night after a long day of like planning the Gaza offensive after like everything. And then he bolts up in the middle of the night and he's like, no, we've lost Karifa Johnson. What? And then since you rage quit your job, where do you get all the money for these first class flights? Maybe she has a sugar daddy or a new job as some like, I bet you know what? And this is just all pure speculation. Maybe this is, maybe she's like doing diversity training now and people like pay her to call them racist. That would track. Anyway, I don't care to know. I found this story amazing. I think it's obviously just one tiny example, and so I hesitate to really extrapolate it from that much. But there was something so sick and so broken about mainstream media, and still is, but I think it's getting better in some ways, over the last 20 years, that people like this were able to weaponize their identity and clearly to climb to positions of prestige while being like some of the most unhinged and insufferable people on planet Earth. Like we probably don't talk about that enough, how that happened and how that contributed to the absolute seismic decline in support for mainstream media. Other than that, though, she's doing amazing. Guys, you let me know what you think. Maybe we should start a GoFundMe for her for emotional damage or whatever she experienced. But my heart goes out to her and her family and everyone else who's had to experience such profound trauma. Anyway, guys, that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad versus Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk again real soon.